Arrived in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, to attend the African Union Heads of State Summit. The leaders will focus on fighting corruption on the continent. Zuma is expected to attend the Peace and Security Council meeting later today.
Zuma's attendance is key as the African Union grapples with the issue of peace and security on the continent. The continent is still facing pockets of conflict in countries such as the Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan. The United Nations has slapped sanctions on South Sudan after the country's failure to make progress on building peace, and tough words from the UN boss to those involved in the conflict.
And I'm sorry to say so that I have never seen a political elite so little interest in the well-being of its own people. And this, I believe, is creating the need for a continued pressure of all of us in order to make sure that they assume their responsibilities of leaders of their own people instead of prolonging a conflict to the detriment of the enormous suffering of the South Sudanese people.
On the other hand, the DRC has experienced violence in recent days as anti-Kabila protesters took to the streets to demand for an end to his rule. Pretoria has been involved in an attempt to find solutions to these conflicts. Coletta Njohi, SABC News in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
And now for the very latest from that AU summit in Addis Ababa, let's now cross to our foreign editor, Sophie Mukwena. Sophie, good to chat to you once again. We now know that President Jacob Zuma is now in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, joining other heads of state for the 30th AU summit. Now, what message is he taking to Addis Ababa, and have you had any opportunity at all to chat to him?
When we met with the South African delegation, particularly the competition went to South African embassy where he's meeting the ambassador and also the Minister of International Relations, and the ministers are here preparing for today. This afternoon we expect President Zuma to be here, and he's going to attend the ATRM meeting and also the peace and security meeting, where issues such as the conflict in South Sudan and DRC, and we are hoping that later today will be able to speak to the president himself if possible. But also tonight, President Zuma or South Africa is hosting a dinner at the Sheraton Hotel. You are aware that last year the dinner that the country hosted was around the centenary of O.R. Tambo. Now that this year the whole globe or the whole continent, and particularly South Africa, is commemorating Madiba's centenary. Now the dinner today will focus on the life and time of Nelson Mandela. We are looking forward to hear what President Zuma will likely touch on when he asks those who come to the dinner, and also to see who among the heads of state will be attending that dinner. The second issue this afternoon, I'll be speaking to the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, where we are going to discuss issues around peace and security on the continent, the development, but also look at peace in general when you look at what has been happening in the Korean Peninsula, and perhaps to look at the decision by the United Nations to cut the United States to cut down aid that is earmarked for the continent, and particularly for peacekeeping missions.
And talking just about that, Sophie, the United Nations Secretary General, as we saw during the earlier report, they're issuing a very stern warning to those that are involved in the conflict in South Sudan. Now, the question here is, what is really the significance of his attendance, and does this mean that the world has a spotlight now on Africa and its issues?
Well, of course, he is really taking the matter of South Sudan very serious. You are aware that the mediator, the former president of Botswana, delivered a strong report against the leadership of that country, complaining that they are not prepared to find a solution. And we know very well that South Africa's Minister of Defense will be heading to South Sudan after the AU summit. Therefore, the focus is on South Sudan to try and find a solution. Indeed, he was very tough. You are aware that the Security Council looked at this issue last week. You know that Sharon Bryce, our correspondent at the UN, has been filing reports in terms of the focus on South Sudan. I expect him, when we speak later today, to give a clear indication in terms of what he expects from the African leaders, but also what the UN is doing. Because the other issue that is concerned about, issue of how you deal with his mission on the continent because of the loss of we saw some keepers being killed in different parts of the continent, and he is quite concerned.
And since the formation of the African Union itself, there have been various proposals to change and improve the workings of that organization. And we understand that Rwanda's President Paul Kagame has also some proposed changes. Do you know what these entail?
We don't have information yet. Apparently, he wants to brief the heads of state first, and then we'll be able to get that report. But when we were flying down here, I was in the same plane with the former South African Resident Governor Chitombo. Chitombo is part of the team that's waiting for Rwandan President Paul Kagame on the proposal in terms of how to transform the AU to make it more effective. We are hoping that before end of the summit, we'll get that report and look at the proposals.
Mm-hmm. And quickly, before we let you go, Sophie, we know there have been some political changes in various African countries, and some presidents they're attending this summit for the very first time. Are they there, and who are they?
We haven't seen some of heads of state who have been elected or recently took office, but we are looking forward to see Liberia President, that is George Weah and Emerson Mnangagwa, but also this morning we were able to see Uhuru Kenyatta, who was recently elected during the elections in Kenya. He had a meeting with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. I suspect in that meeting they were discussing the issue of peace and security, because you know that the instability in South Sudan does affect the neighboring countries such as Uganda and Kenya in particular. So, yeah, we are expecting Emerson Mnangagwa and George Weah to be here.
All right, Sophie, thank you so much. We know you're going to have a very busy weekend. There was our foreign editor, Sophie Mukwena, speaking to us live from the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, where the 30th African Union Summit is now underway.